Good afternoon. Let's get started. I don't have much time. Welcome to this talk. It's going to be about crowdfunding and video games. Try to make the topic a bit more like about advanced techniques and specific topics rather than the basics. But as you can see from the plan, there's a couple of things I want to put in perspective for everyone so we have all the same information. First, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Thomas Bideaux. I'm a consultant in the video game industry. I've been for a while, and while by day I'm advising people on free-to-play PC online game, by night I'm a crowdfunding addict. I really like crowdfunding. I think I like something very deeply into the model on a personal level, and because I like to mix work and pleasure, which is not always advised. But I looked into crowdfunding a lot as well. So I've worked on, I managed 3 campaigns, very involved in those 3 campaigns, and I've been advising probably 20 plus campaigns now for video games. I've done workshops on crowdfunding, all that kind of stuff. So I try to stay on top of things in terms of trends and what's happening in the crowdfunding space. And one thing I do is I like numbers. I like to run numbers to understand phenomena rather than just look at the headlines of the big titles. And so one thing I do regularly is look at what is the health of crowdfunding for video games. I do that regularly. I do that every 3 to 6 months. And this is kind of like the latest numbers I've pulled until end of June 2016. And if you can see, the 2016 is not a really great year. These all are half years that we have for video game. In terms of total money raised, you can see it's kind of like going a bit down. But if you look at, another set of numbers, which is the number of projects and number of funded projects. So in blue, you have the project that got funded in video game. It's kind of actually relatively stable. There's actually a decline in number of projects submitted to the platform, which is not necessarily a bad thing. There was a lot of very naive project that were put on Kickstarter. So it's kind of like stable-ish. And if you look at in terms of the range of projects that get funded, there's going to be a decrease into the very small project, $10,000 and less. And there's an increase into the range of projects that raise between $10,000 and $50,000 and $50,000 and $100,000. And there's way more of those than the $500,000 and more project that exists. So I try to also put things in perspective in terms of what you can expect in terms of size. The last thing in terms of graphs is that graph which shows how many projects get funded every month since the beginning of 2012. Before 2012, there was no Double Fine Adventure. The number was very low. Since then, you have kind of an average of like 30 projects a month that get funded. So it's kind of like every day on Kickstarter, you have a video game get funded. So it's not that dark. It's staying there as a way to get your project extra financing and engaging with the community and all these things. And last on the state of play slide is money. That's kind of like the reality check. The average project raised $46,000, which is good, but the median project raised about $15,000. That means that if you raise more than $15,000, you are in the top half of the projects on Kickstarter in terms of how much money you raised. You are really good, So keep these things in mind as I talk through different things. Next is basics. So I try to spend not too much time on that. There's lots of content online, there's lots of blogs, there's lots of GDC Vault talks that talk about Kickstarter crowdfunding for games in terms of the core principles, but I think it's always good to have a refresher. So the very first thing I try to tell people is crowdfunding is about love. Nobody cares if someone likes your project when you pitch it. Nobody cares. What you care about is people who love your project because they're the one who are going to give money. You need to have something that's very strong for that. So in that perspective, you can have like a game that, very well covered by the media, lots of people are interested into it, but still fails when you do your crowdfunding because nobody's kind of like passionate about it. It could be for many reasons, because the genre is already very well served, because the concept has been done before, and they feel it's okay, or whatever reason, they just don't love it, it doesn't work. So make sure that people give you love. That's super important. Next is, it's all about momentum. The first 48 hours will define if you fund your project or not. If you don't reach 20% of your goal in the first 48 hours, you have 99% chance of failing. If you do reach 20% in the first 48 hours, you have 90% chance of getting funding. It's so important to get your momentum right. Campaigns are, the way it happens is like, you get the most money the first 2 days, and then when you reach your goal, you get another bump, and then the last 2 days. The rest of the time, it's very difficult to get anything going on. So if you miss your launch, if you miss your first 2 days, you're screwed. Don't miss your first 2 days. Nowadays, you need a gameplay. You need to show gameplay to get a project funded. If you don't have gameplay, if you just have, hey, I want to do a point-and-click adventure, unless you're Team Schafer, it doesn't work. Even now, I would guess it would not work for Team Schafer. So really, you need to show the game, and the best is to have a demo. If you have a demo, so people can play the game, much better. Point in case, John Romero went to Kickstarter, want to do an FPS, doesn't have gameplay, doesn't get funded. He's very, very good at branding and everything, and that it didn't work. So really important, show gameplay. And last, there's 3 things that don't work. Free-to-play games don't work. Mobile games don't work. Kids games don't work. So if you do a free-to-play games for kids on mobile, you're dead. If you do any of those 3 things, it's going to be really, really hard. I always advise when I get these projects, like, this is the first thing I say, they don't work, and then we try to make it work, and often it doesn't, so there's that. Okay, so I'll go into very specific topics. I won't cover the whole scope of what crowdfunding is, and I'll pick a few topics I think are important and people miss out usually. The first one is rewards. So when you put your campaign together, the core of your campaign is always going to be, what do you offer to people to back you? It's a very important component of your campaign. And the one thing you need to do, the one thing that's going to help you so much is make projections. Look at what it is you should expect. Okay, my example is always like, you want to raise $100,000. Okay, big challenge. You've seen it's not the average, it's above average, it's way above the median. So you want to raise $100,000. Let's say you say, okay, my game is going to be a $20 game. Okay, so you need a number of people to reach that 100,000. You need 5,000 people. The average is going to be above that price point, maybe at $30, $40. Let's say it's $40. So, okay, make projections. Half your players, half your 5,000 people are going to be giving you $20. Okay, that's one group. Then look at your other rewards and split them up into the different rewards that tier that you've put together, and look at like, oh, okay, so how many t-shirts do I need to make? How many likeness of someone into the game we need to put? It's suddenly like, wow, if we follow the projections, we need to put 30 people into the game. There's like 5 characters. How are we going to make it work? Or we need to make 30 t-shirts. It's stupid, There's like all these things you need to project yourself on how you're going to make it work. What is it going to be the extra work you need to put in for the whole thing to be feasible for you? And it's so important because then you make things real for you. And maybe that reward is a bad reward. Maybe it's awesome for the players. Maybe people want it. But you're like, there's no way we can make a box for the game work. It's too costly, it's too complicated, we've never done it. And maybe there's other things you're like, well, this thing we can do and it's super easy. Let's do tons of it. Different tiers and different versions of it, different colors, because that's good. Projecting yourself is not necessarily a simple exercise. You can go to other crowdfunding campaigns that are similar to yours and look at, okay, how many t-shirts they sold, how many likeness they sold, how many people gave $100, how many people gave $200 as a proportion of their audience, and trying to project yourself and placate that to your own model. That will help you so much define what are good rewards for you. Then another principle that's very important. Rewards are excuses. People will see your project, they will be like, I'm in love with that project, I want to back it. Okay, I don't have much money, so I'm going to take the lowest one, and they're going to target that. But some people are like, I have tons of money, I really like that, I really love it. And they, inside themselves, they have a number. They don't know the number, but they feel it. That is the kind of right price for them to put into the project. And they're like, maybe I want to put $100. What's the reward at $100? Oh, it looks like a good reward. It's a good excuse for me to put $100. That's how it will work. Very few people actually go and say, like, I'm going to look at the list of the reward, and I'm going to pick the best one. More likely, they're going to want the game, especially video game, and say, I want the game, and based on how much they love it, they're going to give extra and find the right excuse. So it's good to have rewards at good price points, but it's also important that not to overdo the rewards. What's happening with lots of projects I've worked on is you have projects that have rewards in like few hundreds, few thousands, and what happens is the people who give you the most, they don't really care about the reward. They want you to have an excuse to give that much. I have a ton of examples of people. One of the projects I worked on, we gave away joysticks. Lots of those people never ever ask for the joystick. We have a backlog 3 years later of people who never claimed the joystick. That's stupid, And they just wanted to give the game some love, and they were like, oh, it's a good price point, I think like that. And we tried to give it to them, but they don't reply, so it's a bit tricky. These are important principles. And the caveat to that is also, don't let rewards take over your campaign. Don't let people tell you what it is you want for your campaign. Don't let them tell you that you need a t-shirt. T-shirts are essential of campaigns. I'm not a t-shirt company. I'm a video game company. I make video games. I don't make freaking t-shirts. I don't want to make t-shirts. That's okay. You want to make t-shirts, you have a good design, something you love, it's not going to take too much time, do it. But don't let people dictate things. And I've seen campaigns where get crazy about rewards because it's like, oh, we really need to reach our goal, we need to make it work. And so they go crazy over the rewards, they give physical stuff that's too cheap, and people are like, yeah, that's very cheap, I get it, but they don't back your project, they back your rewards, and that's not healthy. You want people to back the project and go with the reward that they feel is good for their budget, I say. Digital rewards is the best thing you can do. I mean, the cost of goods on that is really, really good. You could do a lot of that stuff. You can distribute easily. If you can do something digital, do it. This is the most important thing you have to remember is digital is so much freer than anything else you will be able to do. And it's interesting because that's a design exercise. It's something that game designers should be pretty good at. You try to think outside the box and let's do hats. I hear hats are really good. Well, maybe you can do hats. It's okay. I have two examples there, and they are from the same campaign, from Armello. So I don't know if you were at Trent's talk this morning on Armello. It's a digital board game. And this is probably one of the best examples for a digital reward, alongside one of the worst examples for a digital reward. They have dice. So it's a board game, you throw dice all the time. And it's multiplayer, people see you throw dice all the time. So they did the Kickstarter dice set. It's green, and that's it. But it's awesome, because everybody knows, I'm a Kickstarter backer. I have the credential, I look cool. I was cool before you were cool. And it's nice. And now project yourself. How much money does it cost to take, the Unity asset of the dice in 3D and make them green? It's the cheapest thing you can do, and it's awesome. Next to that, they have the Bandit Clan, which were a set of characters unique to the Kickstarter backers. Nobody can get them, except the Kickstarter backers. So, warning number one, it's expensive to make. They have 8 characters in the base game. They want to make like half more, 4 more characters just for the Kickstarter backers. A lot of resources. And characters are difficult for them. They need to balance them, they need to design, animation, all that kind of stuff. It's a very, very expensive thing. And then, when they launched, it was really bad for managing their community. Really, really bad. People were like, what do you mean there are characters I can't play? I'm a competitive player. I want to play the squirrel. I think the squirrel is the best. But it's inaccessible to me, I can't buy it, I can't do anything with it. That's not fair, that's horrible. And so they had a massive disaster with the community, they had to manage it, they had to make it available as a DLC, they had to do all kind of, and they meant well, they really meant well. And on paper, it's an awesome reward, but in reality, it's not. Because I don't think they project themselves on how we're going to manage it long term. It's one of those things. And so that went badly for them. So more dice, less bandits. And project yourself, very important. Try to see how it's going to be, 3 years after you launch the game and how it's going to look like. There's a challenge in digital rewards design that's very, very important. I call that the perk bucket, because I have those buckets of like, this is my content for the game that's paid, and this is like DLC content, another bucket. And it's kind of like the perk bucket. I work on free-to-play games on my day job, and we have like, free-to-play, you have like free, paid, and perks. Like, you follow me on Facebook, I give you this. So finding perks is really what it is about in the digital rewards. And for some games, it's really, really difficult. If you have a narrative game, there's a story. I'm going to give you a different outfit for your character. Nobody's going to see it. It's not multiplayer. It doesn't really show off very well. I'm going to give you an extra character, but then I change the gameplay for you. We have the bandit problem. It's really difficult to find something that's interesting without, corrupting the core nature of your game. So I think you need to think really hard, but it's still worth it. I put the example here of Thimbleweed Park. I don't know if you know that game. It's a Ron Gilbert game put on Kickstarter, and it was very well funded. And they did something that's really cool. In the game, you have a phone book, and you can be in the phone book. You have your name in it, and it's like, you can call Thomas Bideaux, and this is his phone number, and things like that. And if I went to me as a backer to the extra effort of recording my voicemail, I can, send them a voicemail message and see someone call my number in the game, so they have my voicemail message. That's pretty cool. And that doesn't corrupt the story. That doesn't kind of change the whole thing. It's kind of more like a Easter egg component. And that's very clever. Where it's less clever is 3,500 people. And maybe if they do all voicemail, it's a bit difficult. But there was a deadline for that. I don't think all of them did it, so they probably kept it manageable. But that's a really good idea for a digital perk when you have a narrative game. Physical rewards. I have a very empirical rule, which is if you don't want to raise more than $100,000, don't touch physical rewards. They are really a pain in the butt. It's very complex. Especially, we are not very used to make physical things in the game industry. We're all into digital, so the notion of how much it costs to make a T-shirt is very bad. And if you do that for under $100,000, it's a lot of work for not necessarily the best return. You can still do it. Lots of people do it, but it's my advice is avoid it. If you do it, take into account the time to design it, because you want a good design and you want to make sure that it works for everybody. Think about production, and thinking about production is not going online and finding someone who makes T-shirts and try to figure it out with how much it costs for them. It's actually really finding the production. You really need to find someone before you start your campaign that's kind of give you all the projection. You take my first slides on rewards about project yourself, give them numbers. If I do 50 T-shirts, how much it costs and how is it working, and can you ship it around the world, and how much it costs to send it to Japan? All these things. It's very, very important. Okay, now I'm going to talk about stretch goal. Stretch goal is one of my favorite topics. I could do a whole talk about that, but I'll keep it short. Stretch goal is when you reach your goal. You're successful, awesome, you got money, but maybe you want to offer something extra into the game. Maybe there's some features you want to add, and you want to say to people, hey, if we reach, we have $100,000. If we do $200,000, we can, make more content. That's stretch goals, okay? I have 2 rules about stretch goals. Rule number 1 is you don't announce your stretch goals. It's a stupid idea. Never ever do that. Stick to your own goal. If you're successful, then you can announce it. Rule number 2 is you don't announce your stretch goal. It's really, really, really stupid. It does nothing good for you. There's lots of cases where I can prove to you that it's really bad. One of the things is, you go back to my basics. 20%, 48 hours. If you announce your stretch goal, for some people, those percentages are important. They make them confident to the project. And you move the target if you announce stretch goal. If you say, oh, $200,000, we do that. I had multiplier. People are like, oh, wow, it's going to be so good. Oh, but I only raised that much money. I never get multiplier. I don't back it. So there's lots of things in there. And there's other reasons. I'll give you some tips on how to manage stretch goals and you understand. So I always recommend to have 3 plans for your stretch goals. One plan is plan number 1, the most important of all, what happens if you just get the money you ask. You want $100,000, you get $100,000. What happens? Because if you fucked, then you need to revise your plan. It's really bad. You need to make sure that, because that happens to other people, that you just raise the exact money you're asking. That's plan number 1. Plan number 2 is you blow it. 2 minutes in, you have $100,000. People throw money at you. It's awesome. Then you have that plan, and that plan is for $200,000, I'm going to offer that much more, and more content, more creature, more options, all that kind of stuff. And then plan number 3 is you reach your goal after 2 weeks. And that plan has to be different, because after 2 weeks, you raise $100,000, okay, you're good. But if you put your stretch goal at $200,000, people will be like, yeah, we'll never reach it. That's cool, we reach it. We reached the initial goal, but we'll never get to stretch goal. That's not good. You want people to be excited about it. You want people to want to talk about their friends, about, oh, if you back it, we'll get the stretch goal. We have that as extra content. So you have that plan. It's more like maybe 10,000 to 10,000. Maybe it's more incremental content. Maybe it's smaller things. That's the way you want to do it. Also, you need to ask yourself, do you need stretch goals? I've seen very good campaigns have no stretch goal, do very well. And people keep giving. So, because you make new promises, you need to make sure that those promises you can keep as well. It's like the initial campaign. Quickly, the nature of stretch goal. You have stretch goal that basically add to the game. These are good. Everybody wants them to happen. It's like new content into the game, new levels, things like that. We have segmented additional stretch goal. That's interesting, adding to the game, but only for some people. Porting the game on PS4, only good for PS4 players. The game is in French, it's good for the French player. These are difficult to manage because these don't make anything exciting for your existing player. I already backed it. I don't care about PS4. I already backed it. I don't care about French. I can speak French, yes, but I already backed it in English, so it was all right. So these, you need to think about how you communicate about them to reach those extra audience. Then the incremental stretch goal is something you see in board games where you add something to the game, but only to some players who back more. And so, okay, I'm going to add some content to the game, but for everybody who back to $50 or more. These are very tricky to do, but if you do them well, they are kind of like, they create a very strong dynamic where people keep giving you money and you keep increasing the stretch goals. Very common in board games. This is a very good example of a very well-managed stretch goal campaign. It's Bloodstain. You can see like almost every day they are hitting a stretch goal. And you see those goals like they are in orange, they reduced them because they saw they were slowing down. They still managed to hit a goal almost every day, and there are very few gaps in there with 2 or 3 days without stretch goal. Very, very well managed. Have a look if you want to have a good example. I want to talk about social stretch goals, something that some companies do now more and more, which is like, it's not stretch goals about money, it's stretch goals about funny things. This is the best example you're going to get. This is Exploding Kittens, where they ask people to follow them on Facebook, follow them on Twitter, but also do things like a picture of 10 Batman in a hot tub. And that's really good for them, because people share that. People talk about their project, and that's, this is all you want about these things. So, Batson did that very well as well. They had like cosplay, they had fan arts, they had all these kind of things on top of, social channel subscriptions. And they were adding things to the game based on how many of those achievements they were reaching. This is System Shock. This is pretty bad. This is only goals that are set for subscriptions into social channels. I really don't like it for lots of reasons, but one of the first reason is it's only social channels, so it's very marketing-y, it's very kind of like aggressive, and I want you to subscribe to my thing even if you don't want to it. And the other mistakes they've made is they've revealed all the goals, so they didn't have a good sense of how quickly the subscription would go. A good example is Twitch. It took them like months to get 1,000 followers on Twitch, and they're really expecting to go much faster, and so it doesn't look very good. So, based on that, this is kind of like my recommendation on social goals. The first one actually is don't do it unless you have a big campaign. Focus on one thing at a time. Unless you have a big campaign, focus on getting money. If you have a big campaign, then this is really good to do because you probably have more resources to put in these things. Drive, fun, virtuous behavior. Don't make that all about, recruitment. Celebrate, make it fun, share around the social media. 10 Batman in a hot tub is really good as an example for that. Don't reveal everything, so you can adjust numbers. You're very, very slow at getting your first, Twitch subscribers. Yeah, maybe you should change your goal. And this way, if you don't reveal it, you can change it without, telling people you screwed up. Stretch goals, just a conclusion. These are mini campaigns. You need to manage them exactly like that. Each goal has its own thing. Each achievement of this goal should be celebrated, and you tag along. Not-Kickstarter, very quickly, I want to talk about things that are not Kickstarter. Ulule and Indiegogo are two good alternatives to Kickstarter. So don't get me wrong, I think Kickstarter is the best campaign, the best platform for a campaign, no question asked for a video game. It's really, really much bigger than anything else. But maybe you have good reasons to go to the other ones. Ulule is accessible in more countries. They also do multiple language pages. So if you have something where you have a strong community in a country where they don't speak very good English, you want to make sure that they can read everything. Ulule could be an alternative. Indiegogo, they do a number of things that are interesting. One of them is because they use PayPal, there's more people who can pay into it. So if you go to countries that don't have very good payment systems, Indiegogo sometimes is a better solution. They also give you the money the moment you reach the goal. So if you have a long campaign and you know you're going to reach your goal and you could use that money to make it bigger, Indigo is good for that. Briefly on Fig, I guess everybody's familiar with Fig. It's a mix between rewards and equity crowdfunding. It's not better than Kickstarter. I think Kickstarter is still slightly better, but it's good if you want to do equity. The equity side of Fig is really, really strong, and that can help some products. Maybe some products, it's a better platform. And last, I wanted to talk Patreon. I looked at Patreon like the week before this talk to make sure I was mentioning it. It's really good if you want to do porn. Game about porn. And Dwarf Fortress. That's two things. But maybe it will evolve. Maybe it will become something that's a bit better for crowdfunding for video games. At the moment, it's still porn. And I finish with a list of things, to make headlines. So my first thing is 7 useful tools. KickTrack, you can look at lots of products that are similar to use and see how they behave and what is the rhythm. It's a good thing. BackerKit. The backend system for Kickstarter is simple. So if you have a campaign that's a little bit complicated, BackerKit is going to save your life. It's really, really good. Thunderclap it. Someone mentioned it earlier in another talk. It's a way to crowdsource people talking about you on social media. It's good to launch a campaign to get your initial momentum, or to finish a campaign, to finish on a high. It's an interesting tool. Stonemaier Game is a blog from a board game company that has a few Kickstarter campaigns. There's like 170 blog posts about Kickstarter. Maybe half of them are about board games. The other half is really good for you to read if you want to read more into that. Clickist is a media that specializes about games in crowdfunding. So they have interviews, they have postmortems, they have all sorts of stuff like that. It's really good. Merchandise Not Game is one of those people who can help you with your merchandise, physical objects. It's an all-in-one solution. They manage everything for you. So maybe check it out and see their competitors and see if you want to work for your campaign. And the last one is Bloomwatcher is a Twitter account that tweet when some campaigns reach certain milestones. So you can see what are the successful campaigns on Kickstarter very easily because they don't tweet very often. They only start at $50,000 for products. So it's an interesting tool. I have 8 tricks on Kickstarter for you. Trick number 1, you need to know that rewards can't be edited when you launch your campaign. If you made a typo, if you made a mistake about how things are presented in your campaign, you're stuck with that. So really, really think about your rewards and how they're phrased. The quantities of a reward can be edited. So if you fucked up and you don't want more people to take that reward that's badly described, you can limit it to, only 75 people can have it, and there's, 75 people who backed it. New rewards can be created. So if you're like, I'm not sure about the t-shirt, don't do it. You can check it out, in the campaign, everybody wants a t-shirt, or some fan art is awesome for a t-shirt. Maybe you want to do a t-shirt later. It's fine. Last 48 hours of a campaign, you can't be trolled to fail. So if you reach your goal and you are, doing well, and then it's the last 48 hours, someone who gave you like $5,000. If removing those $5,000 make you fail, they can't do it. So you can't be trolled in the last 2 days of your campaign. You can only send a survey to your backers once, so think about it. Don't forget about the t-shirt size, because you won't be able to ask it through Kickstarter again. You can do surveys for different tiers. So if people have just digital stuff, don't ask them about the t-shirt size. You don't need to. Campaign page can't be changed once it's over. So you have like a big yay, countdown. It will be forever, It's like you get stuck. So really think about how you want your campaign to look like at the last, when it's over, because that's the last thing you can do. But you can change the landing page. When your campaign is over, people going to the campaign page go to a different landing page that has kind of like a type of a banner on top that you can customize a bit. It looks like that. That's Bloodstain. This is a really, really good example of a really nice landing page. When you don't customize your landing page, it looks like this. And, that's my, 10 things to remember from the talk. It's about likes, not love, momentum, gameplay, no free-to-play, no mobile, no kids. Project yourself in your campaign on every single thing. It's very, very important. Consider your reward outside of the campaign. Project yourself on how they look like to people who didn't back you. No physical reward for campaigns under $100,000. That's my personal rule. Never, ever announce your stretch goal at the beginning. You can announce it if you're about to reach your goal. Maybe you can announce one, Plan your stretch goals like mini campaigns. They all need to live on their own. And then drive positive actions from your backers. Encourage them to do good stuff for you. And that's it. How am I with time? I'm very bad. I'm so sorry. You can talk to me outside. Thank you very much.